Greetings and welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales. Ironwood State Prison is located south of Interstate 10. It runs from California to Arizona in an isolated section near Blythe, California, located in eastern Riverside County. And it sits adjacent to a Chuckawalla Valley State Prison, also known as Chucky's House. Ironwood consists of 4 Level 3 facilities and an outside Level 1 facility. I believe at one time, one of those yards was for sensitive needs inmates. But like I said, I believe CDC has redesignated all those yards due to their reintegration policy.
Working in the gym is very dangerous for an officer because of the closeness of quarters and 120 inmates being in here and walking between the bunks. At any given moment, anything could happen. Watch your back, gentlemen. You can never let your guard down, especially in the gym, because the inmates are so close to you all the time. You didn't hear the po-po coming?
As of mid-2022, the prison was incarcerating approximately 2,500 inmates. Ironwood is known as a Sereno stronghold, but there are some other gangs active there, like when the Bloods, the Damus, went against the Crips, or Cuz as they often call each other, who would sometimes fight each other during the late 1990s to early 2000s.
Control, be advised, I've got about 6-on-6 blacks. They need a code.
A few years ago, a small contingent of Fresno Bulldogs, or Perro Chatos, were sent down from Pleasant Valley State Prison, but they did not request to go. Many people feel that CDC was trying to teach them a lesson because of all the problems they've had with the Bulldogs. Shortly after they arrived at Ironwood, they were rushed by a much larger group of Serenos. I heard around 200 of them, but they held their own until they were overwhelmed. I heard one bulldog got life-flighted, airlifted out, and 7 others were stabbed and were treated at the facility infirmary. The bulldogs are well known for getting down on the yard, no matter what the odds may be. There have been several Emeros over the years that landed on Ironwood yards. I really don't want to rehash too much of what I stated in my last video about Rene Boxer Enriquez, but per his own words, fellow dropout Angel Stump Valencia from Sangran and Jaco Padilla from Azusa politicked against Boxer at Lancaster, and the IGIs pulled Boxer off the yard and sent him to Ironwood. I believe there is also a medical lawsuit at issue. Many times it is not just one factor why something occurs, but there are often multiple things going on at the same time. As I stated in other videos, Angel was closely aligned with the Cuate Grajeda car, while Boxer was in the Topo Peters car, aka the Mariposa faction. Topo Peters and Boxer Talento wanted Stump killed also for some of the movidas he was making, as well as aligning with Cuate, Topo's arch rival. The Tupi car was basically done by the late 1990s, after he was hit at the LA Metro Detention Center on October 17, 1996, and all of his support was targeted or absorbed by other carnales, like what happened with Tiny from Ontario Black Angels, who went to work for Tonito before he had his card pulled. There was a plan described in Brian Perry's excellent book on pages 80 through 86 when the MA was engaged in peace talks with 3 CDC administrators. Mr. Perry, Assistant Director of Corrections, his number 2 guy, George Ortiz, and Senior Special Services Agent and California Prison Gang Task Force Chair, Joe De La Torre. The MA was represented by Boxer, Jaco Padilla, and Danny Boy Pina. The BGF, Crips, AB, and NLR were also represented, while the NF, specifically Tibbs Morado, initially expressed interest in unifying with La M to better run the rackets on GP yards over all Hispanic prisoners. They eventually backed out, allegedly due to protests by Corny Tristan and some of the NF captains. Cuate Grajeda was also not present, to the surprise of Mr. Perry. Maybe he sensed he might be hit. Boxer took the lead during the talks, and I clearly recall Brian Perry saying that when Boxer took off his glasses, he thought that might be the sign for the gangsters to attack them. Luckily, they did not, but in the year 2000, Boxer and Danny Boy Pina did discuss plans to kill Angel Valencia and Cuate Grajeda in front of Liberal Senator Tom Hayden, who, with prison reform advocates, have been trying to get all these guys released from the SHU for years. Tom Hayden was accompanied by Brian Perry and Pelican Bay Warden Robert Ayers, but the attack did not happen, as Jaco Padilla opposed it. Both Boxer and Stump later appeared in the CDC training video, as did Chino Delgadillo from Garrity Lomas and others. By the way, Stump's dad was only an associate, and his tío was George Silent Ruiz, discussed in my last video. A lot of these guys are related by blood or marriage, and just like in the Italian Mafia, it makes for stronger bonds, but they will also kill their own brother if they feel they betrayed the organization. Walker's book, The Black Hand, basically stops after the April 22, 1995 Maxon Street massacre in El Monte, California, that resulted in the death of two former MA members, two children, and their mother. This incident brought about a lot of outrage by the membership, and one of the killers, Jimmy character Palma, was himself killed at San Quentin's death row. The other shooter, Richard Primo Valdez, presently housed in New Folsom Prison, then locked it up, as well as fairly newly made Romero and plant facilitator Luis Pelon Maciel, presently held at Corcoran Prison. This terrible ordeal and the initial sponsorship of Pelon by M.A. veterano Raymond Weroshai has been covered on this channel and multiple other channels. Boxer continues to give his perspective about La M on his channel, and if you pay a monthly fee, you'll get exclusive content and chat room access. Mexican Mafia members Chato Ortega from Laverne and Raul Molina from Westside Wilmas were housed there at one time, I believe on A-Yard, after the 2015-2016 shoot kickouts happened, but they were at odds on how to run that yard. I understand that Chato's crew consisted largely of Armenians. At the time, AP members were being brought in as associates, and there was a working relationship with the Mexican Mafia as associates. There are a lot of Armenians in and around the Glendale area, and a lot of them have money. But some of the members frowned upon this, such as when George Jr., Buckethead Bustamante, and George Sr., aka Grandpa, were working with the Armenians, and got into some trouble over it. I'll probably do a solo video on all that, as I have a lot of pics of Buckethead that I don't believe anybody else has, or maybe I should say I have the originals. The Armenians look a lot like Chicanos, and often even dress like Sureño homies, and sometimes drive lowriders. You might easily mistake them for Raza until they start talking in a different dialect. I understand that shotgun from Whittier, a campo, camarada, or MA associate, transferred down from the Bay Deep facility and hit the yard at Ironwood around 2017 and initially laid low. I understand that he was sent on a mission by other big homies at the Bay. Right away he saw that Chato Ortega was being a bully. Some channels have even stated that he would pressure vatos out of their rally hamburgers and special food served during sports tournaments, and would give the food to his crew like a real hamburger. In spite of these alleged sins, it is very hard to get a peeling removed once he is made. Word from some sources is that Toto from Santa Paula and Turtle from Colton discussed removing him, but decided not to. Most people agree that a carnal has to be in a major violation of the MA reglas, but sometimes they have some territory that another emero wants to take over. I guess greed trumps the rules. Contrary to rumor, I believe that he was rolled up by CDC and that he did not roll it up or lock it up. Chato is still in good standing as far as I know. At Ironwood A-Yard, several Sureños groups began fighting against each other. The IE car, or Ramfla, was very deep. Eastside LA, Clicas, and Maravilla were also represented, with about a dozen to 15 homies each. This was shortly after the shoot kickouts hitting the main lines. And there was a lot of confusion that time amongst the ranks as the big homies started hitting the yards. Before that time, the camaradas or associates were running the show out on the main lines in general population. As many of you know, Chato Sandoval, not to be confused with Chato Ortega, is from Arizona Maravilla and was instrumental in getting the green light taken off of the Maravillas, who have been placed on the MA Lista for a while. Chato was very close to Saltoro Hernandez from the IE. And in another canal that had some say on that yard, Joker Gonzalez, mentioned in several recent videos, is from Hazard, and both of them had some say-so over the yard. Evidently, some of the Maravillas and Eastside Sureños have been getting at each other, and I was told even that the East LA guys jumped Chato and were going at it with Maravilla. This was before it was clear that the Maravillas were good again with the Sureños, and they were getting blasted out in the streets and hitting the LA County Jail to the point where they had to be separated. The Maravillas have always been very independent. They don't let anybody dictate their program. They kind of remind me of the Bulldogs. They pretty much do their own thing. Sometimes they'll get along with Sureños, and sometimes they will oppose them. A little disturbance with weapons, with fileros, happened over Chato getting jumped. Joker was not pleased with some of these Eastside youngsters taking action against a mate Pili. In the MS, prison gang politics trumps street gang politics. Joker didn't like them messing around with the dope flow and money flow when lockdowns, searches, transfers out, etc. come down by the juras. There have been several riots and violent disturbances at Ironwood, one that occurred in June of 2007 and was covered by the program Lockdown. In 2024, around 200 inmates rushed corrections officers at the facility. According to CDC, 8 officers and 1 incarcerated inmate were injured. I believe that occurred on D-Yard. Authorities said that officers were escorting an inmate across the prison for a contraband investigation when he headbutted one of them. I'd imagine that at that time force was used by the COs, and that is when the convicts rushed the officers, attacking them with fists and rocks. As I've stated before, the Sureños have a rule. If one of them is attacked by staff or any other gang, they are all to jump in or face the consequences for not acting. After the incident, officers fired chemical agents and non-lethal impact rounds to get the situation under control. I had heard a rumor that Michael Mosca Torres was behind that incident, but he was killed several months earlier in July 2023 at New Folsom. So personally, I don't believe that this incident had anything to do with that. June 22nd, 2024, at approximately 7:01 p.m., 3 incarcerated individuals, Jonathan Arduno, Juan Madrigal, and Samuel Ricardes, attacked fellow prisoner Luis Padilla. Staff immediately sounded the alarm, and the 3 assailants fled the area, but were quickly located, cuffed, and placed in isolation. Padilla suffered multiple stab wounds, even though life-saving measures were performed, and he was pronounced dead a little over half an hour later. 2 manufactured weapons were recovered at the scene.
Dangerous ones, and we refer to them as bone crushers. Big weapons like this, large piece of metal stock. Bone crushers typically create a puncture.
The victim, Padilla, was known as either Casper, Conejo, or Green Eye. I've heard several monikers, but most agree that he was from Northside Monte, Little Lecotes, which is one of many gangs in El Monte, California, in the San Gabriel Valley. He was received from Los Angeles County in December 2001 and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. I understand that he did some shoe time and had some respect from the Sureños, but supposedly owed some feria to the big homies. It is stated that he did make some payments, but evidently not enough, and was killed for it. Hitters were all out of San Diego County. So I know that was a short one. Let me know if you have any more war stories that happened at that particular pen. You probably remember times during your life, and have seen in some of these stories that peer pressure can be very strong. I know that some people take actions in order to survive, but try to be your own man. Don't let others destroy your inner peace or deprive you of your freedom. And with that, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians.